What's up everybody, Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of news to go over here this week. And the first big story is we finally have the brand new BMW M3 and M4 revealed after many months and years actually of speculation and rumors. They finally revealed the 2021 M3 and M4, complete with these larger grills, which are very divisive. I personally am not a huge fan of it myself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but it seems like most people seem to hate it. I love everything else about the styling on the new M3 and M4 though. I mean, the wider fenders, the back end, all looks very nice. And, it's just that grille is going to take some getting used to. But, maybe if it's like black or something like that so that it minimizes the grille a little bit, maybe that'll help. But anyway, beyond the looks, mechanically, it's going to be getting the S58 twin turbo straight six that all the rumors were correct. 473 horsepower for the base version and 406 pound-feet of torque. And then the competition version does 503 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. And so 0 to 60 is 4.1 seconds for the base model and 3.8 for the competition version. The base model is manual only, by the way, as well, which is kind of impressive because I would feel like that manual would account for a couple tenths of a second. So honestly, being down on 30 horsepower doesn't seem to affect it much aside from adding in the shift times with manual only. But an actual manual transmission M3, the only vehicle in its segment to offer a manual as of right now as well, which is awesome. So that's really cool. It'll also have auto rev matching, and the manual is going to be 50 pounds lighter because of it. And then the competition model is automatic only, and it's the ZF8 speed, but both models are rear-wheel drive. So there's rumors that the competition version was going to be all-wheel drive only. That's not the case. Competition you can still get with just rear-wheel drive if you want. But the competition will be available with all-wheel drive next summer as an option. It's the same system you can see in other BMWs where you can put it into a rear-wheel drive mode if you want to do drifts and all that kind of stuff still. So kind of the best of both worlds with that one there. But that competition, again, is automatic only. There's also an optional M-Drive Professional package that has 10 traction control settings to let you drift, and even has a drift analyzer that will analyze your angle and all the other data parameters for your drifting, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we'll see how many people that can afford these new M3s are actually going to be legit drifters. But anyway, the chassis and suspension are stiffer. Both trims get forged wheels. On the base version, they're 18s up front and 19s in the back. And then on the competition, they're 19s in the front and 20s on the back. And then behind those wheels, there's 15-inch rotors and 6 piston calipers in the front, and 14.6-inch rotors in the rear with single piston calipers. There's optional carbon ceramics for even more braking force if you want, and they're also a tiny bit bigger. The interior has some very colorful options you can see here, including these optional carbon fiber seats that save 21 pounds while still being power operated, which is kind of nice. They're not totally bare bones seats. And anyway, these new M3s and M4s are going to be on sale in March of 2021 with pricing starting at $70,895 for the base model with the manual, and then the competition is going to be $73,795, and the M4 is going to be $1,900 more than the M3. So yeah, very impressive there. I'm just really happy that they're actually doing a manual transmission version, and I think that's pretty awesome. So cool to see that. And some other BMW M news. Their CEO told Car Advice this week that next year we will launch the first battery electric M car in the performance segment based on the i4. So he alluded to the idea that it's not going to be a full-blown M model, so maybe it's just like an i4M or something like that, or something like an M340i for the i4 kind of. And so it'd probably give it, M hardware with M wheels, M brakes, some of those basics. But he did say that batteries aren't up to the full-blown M performance standards yet, and of course they want to have really good handling and track performance and stuff like that. And I don't think the i4 is going to be there yet, it seems, but they will, give it a dressed-up M version that will have some more power and stuff, I'm sure, too. But so that's an interesting thing. And speaking of electric cars, that was one of the big news stories this week is out of California. Their governor signed an executive order to ban the sale of new gas cars by 2035. So, first off, that's 15 years away. A lot can change, a lot can happen in 15 years. Who knows where we'll be in 2035? So that's a big if. And also, this doesn't ban the sale of used gas cars, and it's not trying to remove any current, gas cars from the streets. So it's just selling new stuff. And this is basically the same as all the other, cities, London, Paris, all these are, going in the same direction. They have very similar bands of around 2035 or so. And that's the goal that everyone seems to be going towards in those, larger cities and stuff. So yes, we'll have to see, how that all plays out. Of course, again, remember, 15 years is a long ways away. I mean, think about how long ago 2005 feels, and here we are in the year 2020, how much things have changed. So, just keep that in mind. And speaking of that, also, some people might be wondering, well, what about trucks and buses and stuff like that? And so they did also say that new medium and heavy duty trucks would need to be electric by 2045 where feasible. So obviously we'll see how battery technology develops and if they can do long range distances by that point and stuff. But yes, so very interesting to see that, and that just further emphasizes that, while maybe, some people thought, oh, well, Europe will go with electric stuff, we can keep our gas stuff for a long time. California usually is kind of the leader, and a lot of other states follow along what California does as far as emissions and stuff in the past. So, this means that here in America, we might be able to dodge the electric thing a little longer than some of the others, but it seems like, eventually that will be the case here as well. That is the future that everyone seems to be pushing towards, and so again, we will see what happens in the next 15 years. Lots can change, so anyway, just wanted to report that because that is pretty important news, but I don't want to get into politics or anything ever on this channel, but a very interesting thing there. And fitting in with this news, Rolls-Royce will be prepared to sell those rich people in Los Angeles a Rolls-Royce that'll be electric pretty soon here, because according to their spokesperson, they just announced this week that their first electric production car will be debuting before the end of this year. And so it's going to be a new model, supposedly, not an electric version of the Phantom or the Ghost or something like that. And the funny thing is, though, according to their spokesperson who talked to Automotive News, he said, there is no demand from customers, but we need to be in a position to sell them a car if legislation forbids them from driving a combustion engine car into the center of the city. So basically, like he said, there is like zero demand. Like no Rolls-Royce customer wants an electric car, which I kind of find a little surprising, honestly. But supposedly that's the case, but they still need to make it just so that, people will have an option if they need to drive into the city, and so obviously Rolls-Royce is very ahead of the curve here since they got 15 years. But, interesting that, all the companies are going towards this. So there's going to be several more electric stories here this week and in the weeks, coming as everyone just tries to ramp up to meet this, these new laws and stuff here, because it does take a while to switch over cars and stuff. And so if you have to have all your cars be electric by 2035, they need to have, half of their stuff be electric by maybe 2030, try and ramp up to that. So they're going to have to make a major push, even if that is 15 years away. It's going to take 15 years to get everyone switched over and all that kind of stuff, so that there's, people are used to it and, aren't going to be like, well, I'm not going to buy a new car because I don't understand this electric thing. So they got to get people acclimated now. Volkswagen is also doing that. So they're, continuing on their electric path, and Volkswagen has revealed the ID.4 this week, finally. So it's going to be starting at $39,995 before EV incentives, and that's for a rear-wheel drive Pro model, which is the lowest trim. And so that'll be getting you an 82 kilowatt-hour battery for 250 miles of range, and an electric motor that does 201 horsepower and 228 pound-feet of torque. There will be an all-wheel drive version coming with 302 horsepower. That'll be arriving later in 2021 for about $3,500 more. And that pricing's interesting because, yes, it's about $3,500 cheaper than like a Mustang Mach-E, but you also have about 60 less horsepower than the Mustang Mach-E comes standard with. So it seems like the Mach-E is going to be a little bit more performance-oriented. The Volkswagen is going to be a little bit more sedate. But it's kind of cool. They're saying this is the first rear-engined rear-wheel drive Volkswagen since the Vanagon from like the 90s, and obviously the Beatles and stuff. It kind of goes back to that heritage a little bit, even if it doesn't have a noisy little gas engine in the back. But anyway, moving on here, the first rear-wheel drive ones are going to be arriving in the first quarter of next year, so coming here in the next, 3 or 4 months, pretty quickly. And this is coming to the States, by the way. This is the first electric Volkswagen here that we're getting in this ID line. Obviously, we had the e-Golf before. But anyway, this base model should be doing 0 to 60 in the 7 to 8 second range, but the all-wheel drive version will do it in under 6 seconds. And size-wise, It's 4.6 inches shorter than our American Tiguan, as well as being 1.9 inches lower and a half an inch wider. So in pictures, it looks like it's bigger than a Tiguan, but apparently it's, significantly smaller, which is interesting. But they say yet it will still be having the same kind of space as the Tiguan inside, even with the smaller dimensions, because, you don't have to worry about an engine and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so yeah, the head of Volkswagen of America said it drives like a GTI, it has the packaging of a Tiguan and the purpose of the Beetle. And they also say it can charge from 5% to 80% in as little as 38 minutes, if you can find 125 kilowatt charger, that is. And if that $40,000 price tag seems a little bit high to you, or you'd rather just upgrade to the Mach-E, in 2022, Volkswagen is saying they're going to start building these in Tennessee instead of in Germany, where they will be built here for the first year. They'll move it to Tennessee in 2022, and then that'll allow them to drop the price down to about $35,000 for the base model. So then you got yourself a nice, $8,500 gap between the Mustang and the Volkswagen here. So we'll have to see, how that plays out. But I think, the design looks pretty clean and simple, pretty simplistic, both on the outside and on the inside. I mean, that interior is pretty, bare bones. You have a little gauge pod there in front of the steering wheel, and, you have a nice large touchscreen, few buttons, and that's basically about it. Very, very minimalistic. We'll see how people react to that. But anyway, these are going to be available to pre-order now if you'd like. And like I said, coming here in just a few months, so cool to see that. And this week there's some new electric car news from Tesla. So the first is they confirmed that a faster Model S Plaid model will be coming in late 2021, and it will do over 1,100 horsepower. Tesla claims a sub 2 second 0 to 60 time and a quarter mile time of under 9 seconds, besting the Lucid Air that just debuted, a week or two ago, that, does very similar numbers and stuff. And so also this Plaid version is going to do 200 miles per hour for its top speed and over 520 miles of range. So again, trying to compete with that Lucid Air. And so you can already pre-order it now on Tesla's site, but that doesn't reveal anything, unfortunately, as far as how it's going to look. But does reveal that its starting price is going to be $140,000. So not going to be cheap, but that is actually still, 30 grand cheaper than the top version of the Lucid Air. So, I think the Lucid Air has a nicer interior personally and stuff. But anyway, that's kind of where that sits. And although we don't see any, actual confirmed looks of what it's going to look like, there is a teaser video they showed at the battery day that Tesla had this week. That shows there's going to be an aggressive spoiler in the back and possibly some wider fenders, but that's about all we can really tell here. And I'm sure that spoiler is going to be optional for it to get that 520 miles of range. There's no way it's doing that much range with that, spoiler that is like an air brake on the back of that thing. So I'm sure they're going to, have that as an option for the handling package or something, and, drop the range way down with that. But anyway, very impressive stuff though. I mean, Tesla just continues to be crazy with their performance numbers. They said it can do a 1 minute 30 second run around Laguna Seca, and they said they could shave like 3 more seconds off of that. So they're planning on it being the fastest production car, period, around that track, which again is really crazy considering it's a 4-door luxury sedan still as well. And you have all these other companies doing carbon fiber this and that and stripping everything out to try and get faster times. And it just shows the power of the electric batteries and the electric range and motors. It's just all bonkers stuff. But the fact that it can actually handle that well is really crazy too. Anyway, also Elon Musk revealed that over the next 3 years they'll be making improvements to their batteries so that by 2023 they'll be slightly larger, but they'll have 5 times more energy and provide 16% greater driving range as well. They're also working to get the pricing down on those batteries so that they can eventually have a $25,000 car that drives itself, and they say that is possible. Now, the whole driving itself thing, that's another thing. They continue to say cars that drive themselves when that is not going to be feasible for a while. But anyway, a $25,000 Tesla, though, is something that, is possible according to them and seems very promising. And so that's interesting. But, they still need to do the Cybertruck. They need to do the Semi and the Roadster first before there's this other more affordable car. So lots of stuff for them to do here over the next few years before they get to that point. So we'll see if they can actually hit all those targets. But back to some gas-powered cars here for all of you traditionalists. First, big news here. Car and Driver has spied the 2022 WRX running around Michigan. And this is the first time we're actually seeing spy photos. And it just has a camo wrap. And now these are their exclusive pictures, so I can't steal them and post them up like some other channels and sites might do. I can't do that because they're copyrighted. But I will link the pictures in the description below. You can go check it out. But basically, you know, it doesn't give us too many surprises in the front. You know, it's going to look just like the Lavorg. Mark my words. I talked about that several weeks ago. I'll link that video if you want to see what the interior is going to look like, what the front end is going to look like. But this does give us a look at the back end for the first time, and it looks like it will, in fact, have the full width tail light arrangement or some type of trim to make it look like a full width thing, just like the concept car, which is very cool. And it does actually seem like it borrows from the concept a little bit more than maybe previous Subaru concepts in the past have done for their production versions. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the way this is going to look. We'll have to wait and see. And it also has a very short deck lid when you look at those pictures, which is kind of an interesting thing as well. And the fact that it only has a camo wrap and looks pretty much production ready is also a little bit of a surprise, considering the leaked timeline from Subaru from their leaked presentation was showing that it was going to be on sale next fall. They still could show something and reveal a production-ready version here this fall and just be like, well, you're not going to be able to have it for another year. Lots of companies do that all the time. So maybe that'll be the case here. Maybe it'll come sooner. That would be a pleasant surprise, considering we've heard nothing about the WRX for years, and now we're finally getting some info. So I'm excited. Also, Car and Driver seems to think it's going to be running the FA24 motor and have over 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque like you get in the usual Subaru setup with this motor. I don't know how much more than that it would do without stepping on the toes of the STI, unless the STI truly is getting its 400 horsepower number that was rumored a while back. I would love for that to happen. And this car, by the way, that was spied, was benchmarking testing against an EcoBoost Mustang, which of course does 310 horsepower. So maybe they'll do over 300 horsepower for a regular WRX and then have the STI actually be 400 horsepower and actually move this ball forward finally after a good long while of being stuck in the mid 200s. We'll have to wait and see. But very interesting. I'm glad to finally see some stuff there. And by the way, if you do want to see those pictures or any other stuff that I can't always share on this channel, you can always go follow me on Twitter at Maran. I retweet stuff as it happens throughout the week, and I don't have to worry about copyright there since it's retweeting and actually sending the traffic to the proper source. So definitely follow me on Twitter if you really want to stay up to date on all the news. But moving on here, Hyundai has revealed the styling for the 2021 Sonata N-Line, but hasn't revealed the specs for it still. So we just have some pictures of what it looks like here, but it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. It's pretty certain it's going to run the 2.5 liter Turbo 4, have 290 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, along with the 8-speed dual clutch and front-wheel drive. And that's just like the prototype I drove last fall. Literally almost a year ago, I drove a car exactly like this. The interior was identical down to the color and everything. We don't have any pricing or release date yet for this either, but hopefully we'll have some more info pretty soon. There's not too many surprises on the outside. It's actually pretty mild. I was hoping it'd be a little more aggressive, but looking at the camo last year, it didn't look like it was going to be too crazy. In the interior, it does have some sportier seats. I really enjoyed, sitting in those seats, but I do wish the steering wheel was a little sportier. But yeah, everything is identical to the car I drove a year ago. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear more about that here relatively soon. Kia, though, has given us all the details finally on the new 2021 Sorento that's coming to the States here. And it still looks fantastic, by the way. They did such a good job with the styling on it, I think. Especially in this new Aruba green color that you can get, which I'm a little partial to, maybe. I like my dark greens. But yeah, otherwise, here in the States, we'll be getting an X-Line version as well, which gives you tougher looks, an extra inch of ground clearance for 8.3 inches total, which is a pretty good amount. It's got a center locking differential, hill descent control, along with unique roof rack and 20-inch wheels. All next-gen Sorentos also have a 1.4-inch longer wheelbase now, but the actual vehicle length is identical, strangely enough, as before. It still has a third row as standard, but obviously has much less space back there than what you got on a Telluride or something, as you can see. I mean, they have a picture there of the third row. Not much space there, but considering this is kind of an in-between thing, this is larger than the Sportage, which actually does compete more directly with the RAV4 and stuff, but it's priced low enough that, you know, someone who wants a 3-row crossover in a pinch, doesn't need it all the time, you know, the Sorento can be a great choice, especially since that 3rd row is standard now. Other things here, though, that are standard. You can get it has a 8-inch touchscreen as standard, but you get a 10.25-inch as an option. Engine-wise, the base engine is going to be the 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder for 191 horsepower, 182 pound-feet of torque, along with a regular 8-speed automatic. And then the upgraded trim, though, is pretty impressive. So the upper trims are going to be getting that 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder, same one as the Sonata N-Line and stuff. In this trim, it's going to do 281 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. And that actually will run through the same 8-speed dual clutch as the Sonata N-Line. So it's going to be a very sporty transmission. There doesn't seem to be a super sporty trim of the Sorento. There isn't going to be any kind of GT version yet. At least, you know, at least what was shown. You know, they showed all the trim levels. There's no GT version. That would be a cool thing, especially with that engine. It could be a lot sportier. And so this does mean, though, that engine does replace the V6 option you used to have in the Sorento. So there's no more V6 in the Sorento, just that Turbo 4. There's also going to be 2 new hybrid versions for the Sorento, and they're actually coming to the States, which is a little bit of a surprise, and I'm glad, though, that'll help them to compete more closely with the RAV4s and the CR-V hybrids and stuff like that. So the regular hybrid uses a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder along with a little electric motor and battery for 227 horsepower, and it puts it through a 6-speed automatic for the front wheels, so you actually have a little distinction there since all the others seem to use a CVT. This is using a normal automatic still. There's no all-wheel drive, though, for that hybrid version, which is something all the others give you all-wheel drive with that hybrid. So this will put it at a little bit of a disadvantage for that. All-wheel drive is going to be available on the other Sorento trims, though, of course, just not on that hybrid version. And because it's front-wheel drive, though, it does really good fuel economy. It's going to be getting 39 mpg in the city, 35 on the highway, and 37 combined, which does beat even the Toyota Highlander hybrid, which is technically the only other 3-row hybrid in the segment. Obviously, the Highlander is going to have a way bigger 3rd row than this does, but as far as, you know, comparing features versus features, the Sorento is the king in that regard. But more interestingly, there's going to be a plug-in hybrid Sorento coming in 2021 that also uses the 1.6 turbo motor, but adds a more powerful electric motor and a 13.8 kilowatt-hour battery to do 30 miles of electric range and 261 horsepower. So a nice jump up there, still less than just the regular, you know, turbo 4-cylinder one, but that's also running through a 6-speed automatic, and it's a decent amount of electric range and stuff too. Now, it still doesn't touch the RAV4 Prime with its 302 horsepower and its 40 miles of electric range. So the RAV4 Prime is still king, but considering how hard it is to get a RAV4 Prime, if the Sorento plug-in hybrid is going to be much easier to get, and it's, you know, still going to be pretty quick, still do a good amount of electric range, that could be a great alternative for people, you know, while Toyota is playing catch-up with supply and demand with the RAV4 Prime. So that's interesting there. The regular Sorentos are going to be arriving by the end of this year, but we don't have any pricing yet for those. Acura this week has revealed that they're going to be making an RDX PMC Edition for the 2021 model year. And like the others, it's a limited production, hand-built model in the same factory where they build the NSX. Only 360 of these will be made, just like the other PMC editions. And like the other PMCs, it's going to be combining the A-Spec package and the advanced packages, along with giving you black accents and an exclusive color, which this time is thermal orange from the NSX. There's orange accents inside as well, and it'll be starting below $55,000, Acura says, but they didn't get any more specific than that. And deliveries will be starting in October, so if you're an Acura fan, this is just in time for Halloween. You're going to have your orange and black RDX to go along with the season. I don't know, I really like thermal orange, but I feel like on an SUV like this, it's a little much. I kind of like it though. I don't know how to feel about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Another cool little special edition. Nissan is doing a special edition for the Maxima's 40th anniversary, and so there's this 40th anniversary edition. It takes the platinum top trim from the Maxima and adds this exclusive gray paint with a black roof, black wheels, even black exhaust tips and badges. Inside it gets these dark red leather seats that look really nice. You get red stitching. There's silver and white gauges designed to be a retro nod to the Maxima, which of old, which is kind of cool. And otherwise, there's no other changes. There isn't any performance changes or anything like that. And there's no pricing or release date yet for those either. But it's a nice looking Maxima. I reviewed the Maxima, about a year or so ago, and it's a nice cruiser. It's not as sporty as some of the Maximas in the past, but it's a nice, comfortable cruiser for sure. And so interesting to see that. Toyota this week has teased the hypercar they're still working on as a homologation special for the race car that they're going to be running in the World Endurance Championship here, that has now won Le Mans 3 times for Toyota as well, which is really impressive. Everyone was really excited when Ford won it with the Ford GT, and now Toyota's won it 3 times, and it's hardly even making news. I know this is a crazy year for news, but still, really impressive car. To win Le Mans 3 times. Anyway, Toyota provided a few pictures along with saying the GR Supersport epitomizes Toyota Gazoo Racing's commitment to use motorsport to make ever better road cars for the enjoyment of customers, and it symbolizes the ever closer relationship between Toyota Gazoo Racing, race, and road car products. So, I know a lot of people like to criticize Toyota and stuff because they don't manufacture the Supra all on their own and stuff like that. But they're really serious about making sporty stuff when they could just be making appliances and be totally content. I won't go on that whole rant again, but this shows like they're spending tons of money doing a race car that they don't need to do. And yeah, it's cool to have a few trophies, but they're doing this to actually make the road cars better. And also, one of the byproducts of that is to make this thing into a race car, you have to make 20 road cars to compete in this championship. So at least 20 of these hypercars are going to be made. How many more beyond that remains to be seen, if any at all. But should be pretty crazy. They're saying it could be over 1,000 horsepower, do some very impressive stuff, much like the Ford GT has done. And so, yeah, we'll have to wait to see more of that, but they're still working on it, even though it doesn't get much press. Toyota has an awesome additional sports car in the works, in addition to the 86 and the Supra that we already have. So that's awesome for Toyota, and congrats to them on winning Le Mans again as well. It's just crazy. Other stuff here. Mercedes-AMG has improved the GT Coupe this week with even more power, along with this new Stealth Edition that gives it a blacked out look, even blacks out the headlights and taillights and stuff. It gets an extra 54 horsepower and 29 more pound-feet of torque now for all GT Coupes now for 2021 with that 4-liter twin-turbo V8. Now doing 523 horsepower and 494 pound-feet of torque. It's still a little less than the GTC's 550 horsepower, but still a nice boost that allows it to drop 0.2 seconds from the 0 to 60 time for a new 0 to 60 of 3.7 seconds. All 2021 models also get a standard adaptive suspension that you previously had to pay like $1,500 extra for. There's a race driving mode now and an ELSD differential from, again, higher trims of the GT that are now, working its way down. There's also upgraded brakes as well. And they're going to be on sale early next year, but they haven't announced pricing yet for those. So we'll have to wait to see if you actually get that stuff for free or if they just raise the base price to, give you all that stuff that way. It'll probably be the latter, but we'll have to wait and see. Audi this week also has a special edition. Everyone's doing special editions. This is the R8 Green Hell Edition. And so this pays homage to the Nürburgring and Audi's 5 wins at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring in their R8 race car. And so only 50 of these are going to be made in either green, white, gray, or black. Otherwise, though, it's just badges and special graphics and wheels and stuff. But I really like that green color. I think it looks great. And I'm just glad they're, paying homage here to the R8 because, there's talk of it, going away and stuff, obviously, at least with its V10. So we'll have to wait and see about all that. But anyway, if you want one of these very rare vehicles, they're going to be costing $275,000. So interesting to see that. Ford also, back when they revealed the Bronco, they had this Sasquatch package, which gives you 35-inch tires, beadlock capable wheels, and a bunch of other stuff. And that was like the most aggressive off-roading package, but it was going to be only available on automatic versions of the Bronco. And that really upset a lot of people who wanted it to be available with a manual. And Ford has listened. They listened to all the complaints, and so now they've changed their mind, and the package can be ordered on any new Bronco, but can still only be had with the 2.3-liter engine. So if you want the top trims of the Bronco with the 2.7-liter, you're going to have to still get the automatic with that engine. But if you're okay with the smaller engine, then you can get the manual with the Sasquatch now, which is cool. They're giving people that choice, and so it's nice of them to listen to the fans and stuff. But because it's a late edition, it's not going to be available until late 2021, they're saying. But anyway, great to see Ford kind of changing course there a little bit to help out all the people who want it. So that's cool. The last news story this week here, very briefly, is there's the recent news of the LA Auto Show getting pushed from November until May, like late May of 2021. And that kind of put the Detroit Auto Show in a rough spot because their auto show was supposed to be in the middle of June. And what car company is going to want to show a new reveal if they just showed something at LA? They have to go to Detroit 3 weeks later. Kind of a headache. Kind of a jerk move by the LA Auto Show, in my opinion. But so they've bumped it, and so now Detroit has responded. They have to bump theirs. So now the Detroit Auto Show has been permanently moved to September 28th to October 9th, 2021, and will stay at those dates for the next 3 years. So now it's like a month and a half before the traditional LA Auto Show date. We'll see if LA sticks with their date forever or just for 2021. Everything's chaos with the auto shows because of COVID, and also just auto shows are really struggling in general, even without COVID and stuff. So, we'll have to see how this all plays out for the auto shows. But, it kind of makes sense. In Detroit, they pointed out that with their auto show, September is right whenever all the new model years change over and stuff. So having an auto show in middle of September and stuff makes a lot of sense because you're going to have all the new models out generally by that point and stuff. And so I think it's a good change. Hopefully it'll help them to stay alive. It's still warm enough. It shouldn't be too chilly during those dates. It certainly will still be warmer than January in Detroit was the many years I went to the Detroit Auto Show. But yeah, so interesting to see that. But that's it for all the news this week, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this weekly update. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. I hope you guys continue to stay safe and healthy. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.